The liberties of the American people are dependent upon the ballot box, the jury box, and the cartridge box. That without these, no class of people could live and flourish in this country. Frederick Douglass, American social reformer, abolitionist, orator, writer, and statesman. All right, welcome to another morning episode of the Liberty Dad podcast, a discussion on politics and culture. If you're tuning in live, then I want to especially thank you for giving me your time so early. All right, folks, we're back at it. Another week, another day of interesting things to talk about. And hopefully I make it through this episode. Trying out a new kneeling chair. I don't know if you've ever used one, but apparently they're supposed to be good for your lower back. So we're giving it a shot. You can't see it, but just know that I'm actually kind of only sort of sitting. I'm like sitting and kneeling at the same time. All right, so what do we got today? Well, turns out I saw something very interesting. Moms Demand. You're familiar with them. You know Moms Demand. They demand that we give up all of our guns, basically, and they spread a lot of misinformation about firearms. Well, as it turns out, something came across the wire, and they're not really happy. But I was kind of like, that's kind of cool. Not that that they're not happy. So what do we got going on here? Well, here's this here's this post that they put out. In a country awash in guns and ammo, where guns are the leading cause of deaths for kids. By the way, when I said misinformation, that's what I'm talking about. We don't need to further normalize the sale and promotion of these products. That was Everytown's Nick Suplina on ammunition being sold via vending machines in some states. Wait a minute. What did ammo being sold via vending machines? What is this? Well, this is a really cool story. Um, and we're gonna play a little clip here. This comes from this is a local news outlet. So actually, some of the people in this are going to be from here in Jacksonville, but apparently there is this new thing where they're going to sell some grocery stores are going to sell ammunition from a vending machine. You can go up and you can buy, like you were buying Cheetos, but instead of Cheetos, you can buy ammo. So I think this is really neat. Let's play this video clip and we'll see what's got Mom's Demand really upset and me kind of excited. I'm like, this is anything that makes Mom's Demand groups upset, I will probably like, I will probably support. Just probably based on what I've seen. So let's check it out. Let's get that video going.
Ammunition vending machines could be coming to Florida stores. Action News Jack's Jake Stofan reports the machines have already launched in Alabama and Oklahoma, and the company that makes them is looking to expand across the South.
Just like you may order a soda out of a vending machine like this one, soon in a store near you, there may be a very different kind of vending machine with a lot more firepower. But the idea is drawing concerns from both sides of the gun debate. Customers in 6 grocery stores in Oklahoma and Alabama can now find these ammo kiosks inside. Developed by American Rounds, in this promotional video, the company's CEO, Grant Majors, explains the ammo vending machines are intended to provide a safe, secure, and convenient option for gun owners to purchase ammunition in areas where other vendors may be scarce.
Traditionally, ammunition is sold at outdoor type stores, your sporting goods stores, and it just sits on a shelf. It's very accessible. Because of that, there's a high rate of theft. But with our machines, as you can see here, we have, a very secure automated retail machine.
The company's hoping to expand into Florida by the end of the year, but local gun safety advocate Katie Hathaway says no thank you.
You don't see cigarette vending machines all over the place, and I don't want bullets being marketed to my kids while we're grocery shopping.
On the other
Okay, so just in case you weren't aware, that's local Moms Demand gun activist Katie Hathaway anytime the local news wants to talk to an anti-gun activist, they get her. Like every time. I don't think I've ever seen anybody else. She is very active. And you may not be aware, but since I'm the local chair for the Duval Libertarian Party here, here in Jacksonville, I challenged her to a debate on guns some months ago, and she basically declined. I mean, she didn't technically decline because what she did was online in front of, this was public in front of everybody. She was like, "Oh, I don't turn down challenges. I'm not afraid, blah, blah." She was kind of making out like, "Yeah, we'll do this. Let's talk through direct message, through private messages." And then as soon as we got into private message, she was all like, "I'm concerned for my safety. This is not a good thing for me." And I'm like, "Woman, you you are on media all over the place talking about, like here, I don't want ammo marketed to my children, but you want everything else in the grocery store marketed to them?" Because I can point out quite a few items that aren't so healthy for them. In fact, my local Publix, it has alcohol. And she might say, "Well, that's only marketed to those who are 21 or older." Oh, well, that's fun because we're about to see a little fact about this. So anyway, let's continue. I just wanted to give you a little bit of background. Like this woman, I actually challenged her to a debate. She declined, citing her safety, but clearly her safety was not so important that she can't make it to the news every time there's something to talk about with guns. So just want to point that out. Ms. Hathaway, offer still stands.
On the other hand, Second Amendment advocates like Yulee State Representative Dean Black see potential in the ammo dispensers,
particularly in rural areas where it can sometimes be difficult to get, like perhaps on the morning of hunting season when you forgot.
But he does have some concerns when it comes to privacy, as the machines not only scan a buyer's ID, but also their faces.
This is almost like having a DNA type of every gun owner. So
Okay, so it's not like it either is or it isn't. Okay, Mr. Black, he is, I believe, he was or is, I don't know exactly at the moment, but was or is the chair of the local Duval GOP. And what this machine does is you have to insert your ID, and then it scans it, and then you have to stand there and you look up at it, and like a little circle goes around your face, and you can see it on the screen, and that's where you got to put your face in, and it matches your face to your ID, and it makes sure that you're 21 in order to buy it. So it's like it's kind of more strict than the alcohol sales at the grocery store, because at the alcohol sale, they don't always card me. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But this machine will always card you. You have to give it your card, your ID, not your card, but your ID. And then it will verify your face. Like I have to sit there and look at it, and it says, "Okay, the guy that's right here in front of me is the same guy that's on this ID, and it shows that he's 21 or older." You don't get that from alcohol. Just want to point that out.
we just need to make sure that gun owners' privacy is protected.
Privacy concerns aside,
I agree.
Hathaway notes that technology is unable to look for other warning signs that a human vendor may be able to spot.
Recognize signs of distress or those who are prohibited from owning a gun, such as those convicted of a felony or domestic violence.
Okay, so she's right. The machine doesn't say like, "Oh, this person," it doesn't flag them if they're a felon, and a machine won't know that they're distressed. Though I don't know that makes any sense, Mrs. Hathaway, because let's say that I'm a gross I was going to say a teller. That's not the right word. Let's say that I was a cashier at the store. Let's say the local Publix, and let's just say Publix happens to have it. Now, I don't know that Publix is the one that's getting it, but let's just say for a moment, like I go into my Publix store and I'm buying some ammo that happens to be there. And I go through the checkout and I'm kind of distressed. I'm kind of like, maybe I'm chewing on my nails or something. Are they going to stop selling me? They're going to be like, "Man, this guy looks a little fidgety." No, they're going to continue to sell it to me. Right. Like, so like this argument doesn't even make sense. Like like it just so it looks it to me it's just she is just coming up with objections. Oh well, what if you're a felon? Okay, well, cashier doesn't know if I'm a felon either, right? So like this, I think this is kind of I think she's just making objections to make objections because again, hey, let me brazenly go out to the media, totally not afraid to be on camera, show my face all over, tell everybody how fearful I am that my child might see some ammunition in the grocery store. And then, oh no, what shall I do? Well, I guess you could just do the same thing with alcohol. Some people buy that, we don't buy it, or whatever. Or maybe it's for adults. Not everything in the store is for you, little Johnny. But to make all these objections, like I think this is good. Now, I do share the concerns of Mr. Black. Like, what about your privacy? Where does like that picture and that information, like say it's June 15th, I'm sorry, July 15th. And I go in and it scans me. Does that information get sent somewhere? Like, is it stored so that the police could come by and say, oh, it looks like DL bought some ammunition, on July 15th, at 9 a.m., whatever, right? Here's a picture of him looking a little fidgety. I don't know. Let's see. Let's continue this video. It's almost over.
Now, regardless of state law, American Round sets a minimum age limit of 21 for any ammo purchases. That face scan we mentioned earlier, well, that's to ensure the purchaser matches the ID scanned by the machine. For local coverage you can count on the South Side, I'm Jake Stofan, Action News Jax.
All right. So that was a nice little fun video. I think it's neat because I think basically anything that you want to buy should be accessible wherever seems appropriate. I mean, it would be weird to have ammo box vending machines at the local humane society. So it's not like I'm advocating that they be everywhere, but if a store wants it and says, hey, look, I think our customers would like to be able to purchase ammo out of a vending machine, well then, hey, we got a little spot over here. We can squeeze one in and set it up for our customers. And I think that would be just fine. I have no issues with that. And I don't think anybody else should either. And I think that the controls that they're putting in are decent. Like, hey, you got to scan your ID and you got to take a picture. Now, would I use it? Maybe not, because I don't. Well, I just I don't know. I don't know. Maybe not. Depends. I mean, my ID and my face are all over the place anyway. I'm prior service, so it's not like the government doesn't know about me. There's no hiding at this point. So I don't know. I don't know if I would or I would not. But I think it's a neat idea. I welcome it, and I think the arguments against it are just silly. All right, but then some people might say, well, what if somebody decides that they want to assassinate one of our heads of state and they just go to the local grocery store and they buy some ammo right before it? Like, maybe the cashier could have stopped them. Well, probably not, because the cashier is probably not like going to have a conversation like, oh, what's your intention here? You planning to, I heard there's a rally. You planning to go to that rally? So, but let's talk about the president. Because over the weekend, somebody made an assassination attempt. I mean, I'm sure you already know this. I'm not telling you anything new. Like, you can't possibly not know this by now. So I was working in my yard all day Saturday. I come in and I'm just like, all right, I'm tired, I'm dirty. I'm like, let me check on Twitter. And I open it up and I start seeing, I'm like, wait a minute. This, because, sometimes on social media, you got to be careful because people will troll you. So I was like, is this a troll that's getting out of hand here? And I looked and I started digging in and I was like, oh my gosh. And I was like, somebody literally tried to shoot the president. And when I say try, they actually somewhat succeeded because they shot him in the ear. And so, like, if you think about it, like, look at my ear here. Like, look how close it is. Just think about how close that was. And there's pictures showing where like it's like a top down view of the brain and the, in the head, and it's got the ear, and it shows like if the head had been turned just a little bit, like a few degrees, like it could have literally went right through the skull. Like we could have lost our president through an assassination. It's totally unacceptable. It's totally unacceptable. Now, what's funny are some of the comments that I've seen on social media. So let me pull something up. I was going to pull a comment that I made up, and it was funny to watch the. It was funny just to kind of watch and see how people responded. And let's see how many people ended up responding to me. Oh goodness, did it really go that hard? Okay, so that there's 212 comments. I didn't even like I muted. Let me pull it up on the screen so that you can see it, because this is kind of funny. So where are we here? Let's get this up on the screen. I'm a little disoriented here, folks, because I've got made some change to my setup. So bear with me. I feel like I'm kind of bouncing around and just kind of scatterbrained this morning. But at any rate, all right. So here's this Twitter post. So here's what somebody said. And I don't know who this guy is, but his name is Alex Cole. He said Republicans are upset because the police or Secret Service didn't immediately do anything when they pointed out that some guy had a gun. Maybe it's because it's illegal to open carry in Pennsylvania. That's the gun laws you guys voted for. And so what I said was I was like, dude, open carry and rifle on a rooftop 130 yards from a former president are not the same. And so apparently that post did pretty well. 3,000, almost 4,000 likes, 56 repost. Um, but let's see here. Some of the comments were just funny because a lot of them were like, open carry is open carry. That means the shooter was well within his rights to carry that weapon right up to the building. And until he got on that roof and started shooting, there wasn't a damn thing law enforcement could do about it. Like a lot of people responded in that same manner, right? Like if you scroll through the comments, like here's another one: shall not be infringed. Isn't that what you guys usually say? Yes. But if I'm camped out to shoot, like open carry means like I'm walking along and I have a firearm on my hip, or maybe I've got a shoulder holster, right? Like, and it's open, you can see it. That's what it means. It doesn't mean that I've made a position across from where the president's speaking with a rifle pointed at him. That's not open carry. That's a position to shoot somebody. That's not the same. And there's so many comments like this because I think people are stupid. I mean, there's no nice way to put this. Like, yes, we do say that shall not be infringed. That doesn't mean that you can take a position where you're clearly looking to shoot the president. That's not the same. And I've never actually argued against, personally, I've never argued against the idea that a president can host a rally and the Secret Service can say no firearms in within a particular area, perimeter. I've never made that argument because I do recognize that people do want to shoot the president like we saw this Saturday. And so therefore, it's not unreasonable to say, if you want to come and see this president, see, we're not talking about, oh, in your day-to-day life, as you're going along, you can't carry your firearm. We're saying in a very specific event, if the president and his team say no firearms, then you agree to not bring your firearm or not be admitted. That's it. You have no right to go to a rally, okay, and see somebody, the president specifically. And I would argue the same thing for the Pope, any musician, like anybody that says like, look, I want to host this event and I don't want firearms. Well, then they can take that up with the property owner. And presumably the property owner will either agree and say, you're right, for this event, we're not going to host, we're not going to permit firearms. Or the property owner can say, I'm not telling people they can't have firearms. And then the Secret Service could say, well, we're not hosting our event here. Or yeah, they wouldn't be hosting it, but the Service could say, well, the person that or whoever, anybody guards can say, we're not going to permit the person that we're tasked with defending to be here because we're not like, that's way too close for comfort for us. Like, this person was 130 yards away. Imagine if they were 10 yards away and they were carrying. Well, that would be, that's not necessarily a defensive or an offensive position, but it does increase the risk for the person that's there. So no, none of these arguments make sense. Here, actually, it kind of sounds exactly the same. He was not in the restricted area until he pointed that rifle into the crowd and pulled the trigger. Was he not within his rights? Like, could you make this argument that at 130 meters, a guy climbing on a roof with his rifle, but not pointed at the crowd, is just open carry? I mean, I guess if you're stupid, because that's not like open carry is not like people aren't just climbing up on roofs. I don't. I think I've always had trouble with that word, but they're not climbing on top of buildings and then saying like, yeah, I'm just open carrying, bro. Like that's not. It's very clearly you're trying to shoot somebody, or at least appear like you're trying to shoot somebody. This is at the point now where you start being an actual threat. It would be not much different if I had my firearm and I'm at a park and I start loading it and setting it up. Like that's not carry. That's active using. You have to do things. Set your tripod up. Get a position. Get your scope on, like whatever. Like you got to like whatever it's not however it's not set up when you're just carrying versus when you're on a rooftop and you're getting set up to shoot somebody. That's an active situation. That is not the same. People don't open carry and then just climb on rooftops. This is absurd. And the fact that people thought this was a good argument, and there's so many of them. There's so many. Let's see. Here's another one. Yeah, one, you're on the ground. The others, you're on the roof openly carrying a gun. What's your issue? Nowhere in the Second Amendment about rooftops. So that's what you get. LOL. But again, we're not just like it. The guy wasn't just chilling on a rooftop with the gun in his holster. That would have been like, then you could make that argument and say, the guy was just chilling. He thought he had his binoculars. He had a pistol. He was 130 meters away. He was just watching a president from a distance and thought, man, this would be a good spot to watch. And I can keep my firearm and I can see the president all at the same time. Like, that's not what was happening here. Dude shimmied up there, had his rifle pointing. Like at this point, he is not just carrying. I don't understand this. I don't understand why so many people, Republicans, wanted a world where everyone has guns. This is the end result. Don't cry now. Okay, so first of all, that's the world libertarians want. Okay, Republicans have done plenty to increase gun control. They like red flag laws and they like other things that restrict your firearms. In fact, I believe it was President Trump, if I'm correct, that had the bump stock ban, and then that got repudiated a bit later, right? So Republicans do their fair share on limiting firearms. So it's not even them. You're not even correct on who you're talking about. Now, libertarians, yeah, we would be the ones that say like everybody can carry. But I think most libertarians would say if the president is speaking and somebody climbs up on a rooftop with a rifle and they start getting in position, they are no longer just carrying. That's the same as if I walk into the grocery store and I'm arguing with somebody and I just casually pull my gun out and I set it down and I say, I think you need to calm down, sir. Like, I'm starting to present a threat to somebody. So like this is bizarre how people think. But anyway, let's move on, because what I want to talk about is I want to go through this. There was somebody, he posted a whole long uh a thing about, kind of like in retrospect, like after the fact. And I read it and I was like, you know what? I think I pretty much agree with everything on here. I don't think there's anything that I disagree with. And I think it was a nice little summary of this assassination attempt. And so I want to read that to you. So I'm going to pull that up here. I couldn't help it because I thought this was so funny that people really believe this notion that it's just a matter of the Second Amendment. What they're trying to do, I get it. What they're trying to do, they're trying to throw it back in our face. That's what they're trying to do. But we just need to throw it back into theirs and say, yeah, you can say that, but you're being stupid. This is dumb. This is not a smart argument. And it doesn't make any sense because there are some clear differences between what we advocate for and what this man was doing. There are very clear differences. And if you can't spot them, it's because you don't want to. That's the only reason why. So this post comes from Dylan Allman, and he says, my full take on the assassination, the Trump assassination attempt. And we could pull this up on the screen so that you can read it right along with me. There we go. All right. So here's what he said. I don't think it was staged by the Trump team. Too risky, and the shooter and rally attendee were killed. Wouldn't be worth it. Trump is already ahead enough in the polls. That doesn't make sense. I agree. I don't think it was staged. And to be perfectly honest with you, the man was shot in the ear. There is no way in the world that somebody would agree and say, well, okay, you're just going to shoot me in the ear and then we'll use that. No way. Nobody could possibly want power that bad and think that's a good idea. So the idea that it's staged is just absurd. I don't think it was the deep state. Trump spent his 4 years in office consistently being steamrolled by bureaucrats, filling his administration with swamp creatures, and doing the bidding of the deep state. I see no reason why they want to take him out. I kind of agree. I mean, we criticize him after he left office the first time. We criticize him and say, man, look at all these promises that you were going to do, that you were going to fulfill, and you didn't. Right. And then why didn't he do it? Well, I now again, like I said on the other day, when I think of deep state, I really do think bureaucratic state. I don't think there's like some shadowy organization that's pulling strings from behind. Okay. Again, I pointed out, I said, if you look at a group like APAC, who has tons and tons of money, and they really do try to influence our elections, even they met their match when it came to Thomas Massey, the House representative from Kentucky. They didn't like him because he didn't vote on a particular bill. He voted no to give money to Israel, right? And this was kind of like my argument. Now, they're not the deep state necessarily, but they are certainly part of the bureaucratic state. And even they, with all their money and power, they were not able to defeat him and keep him from being reelected, or at least I believe they tried to primary him, and it didn't work, right? So that's kind of like when you see things like that, that tells me that either there isn't a shadowy organization in the background pulling all the strings, or there is, and they're just not very good at it. So, and there's plenty more examples that you can see where you can go and find and say, okay, it looked like the powers that be wanted this, but they didn't win. So I don't think, I agree. I don't think that this was a deep state. There was definitely no shadowy organization. I think it was just a crazy lunatic lone wolf that, for whatever reason, managed to get one over on the Secret Service. Let's see. In fact, they probably prefer him in office. He's infinitely more useful alive, better the submissive one whom his supporters think is the opposition than the one who's clearly not in control. I agree. I think he's correct on this, that Donald Trump is what you might call what they call that, controlled opposition. I think that's exactly what it is. And he makes a lot of promises that he doesn't follow. I mean, we still don't have that wall that Mexico was going to pay for. And if you remember, that was practically the foundation of his argument, or of his campaign when he was running for office the first time. I'm going to build a wall. Mexico's going to pay for it. I'm a great businessman. I can negotiate this deal. Just you wait and see. Well, we're still waiting, right? It's been like 8 years. We're still waiting. 2016, he got elected. And it's 8 years later, and there's no wall that's been paid for by Mexico. I don't think it was Biden and or his team, considering how sloppy and botched the attempt was, and the fact that it was just one guy. I can't imagine they would take the risk of producing exactly what happened, effectively making Trump a martyr without taking him out, all but guaranteeing him an election win. Totally agree there. I do think this may have sealed the election for him. And I was talking to my wife, and she was like, "Really? Why?" And I was like, because Americans really like, this appeals to Americans, this kind of defiance, right? And it's not that people are like rallying because he there was an assassination attempt. That in itself is not it. It is, he threw his fist in the air and yelled, I believe, fight, 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 or something like that right afterward. And so that was a tremendously brilliant move on his part. Now, I don't think it was necessarily calculated, so I don't think it was brilliant in the context of, okay, what should I do now to guarantee my election later on this year? What I think instead it actually was, he just was being defiant, he was being Trump, and people love that. And I mean, I have to admit that I was like, okay, little respect. I mean, you got shot in the ear. You don't know what's going on because he's the president, right? He's not there managing security. He doesn't have earpieces and know who's saying what. So he has no idea. All he knows is he got shot in the ear, Secret Service is around him, and then they're escorting him away. And so then he pumps his fist in the air and yells, fight, 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 or whatever. Right. And like, it's very plausible. There's no reason to believe that it was anything other than actual defiance on his part. Why not? I mean, I think most people, I don't want to say most people, I think a lot of people would do a very similar thing. But then there would be some people who might be like, man, I'm kind of, get me out of here, get me out of here. Right. And I don't think that those people tend to be the ones that get that far, as a rule of thumb. Because I think if you want to be a president of the president of the United States, you have to have some level of defiance to you. So, and it just so happened that this situation provided an opportunity for Trump to really appeal to the American spirit of defiance. And that's what he did. And again, I don't think it was calculated. I think he just did it and it worked out for him. We love to see it. We don't love to see people get shot necessarily. We love to see people stand up in the face of danger. That's the American spirit. And I think he just, like that. I mean, it is what it is. All right, continue on. Yes, the Secret Service failed in many different respects. Is anyone surprised that a government agency acted with incompetence? Because you shouldn't be. I don't see any signs of malice. Quote, never ascribe to malice that which is adequately explained by incompetence, end quote. Agree again. Now, I was watching a video because I was very curious, like what kind of, what kind of expectations are there for the Secret Service? And I'll link it in the show notes. You can go watch it. But there's a video by I don't remember which news organization, Bloomberg or something like that. But they went inside the training for the Secret Service, and they have some video of it. And the guy, he's a trainer. He's talking to the new recruits, and he says, this organization, we don't make mistakes. And it's true. Like, if like the president got shot in the ear, now he didn't die, but he got shot in the ear, which means they failed. The Secret Service failed. They failed the president, whom they were supposed to protect. It's an absolute failure, even the ear. Like they can't say, oh, he didn't die. No, because he got shot and he got lucky. Like it's not like somebody said gun and grabbed him and then knocked him down, and then the shooter tried to take a shot at him at that point. And so therefore somebody can claim a little credit for protecting him in that last moment. No, he was actively shot, and then after, I don't know, 5 or 6 shots rang off, the Secret Service were able to cover over him when you watch the video. So, yeah, they failed miserably. Like that was their one job. Their job is to protect the president and ensure. And in this particular case, and you can go online, you can find different videos. I'm not going to play them here, but you can go online, you can see where people were like, dissecting it and saying like, look, it's a clear line of sight and there's a building and you can see it. Like they should have never allowed that spot to be unguarded. And then on top of that, you've got witnesses at the time who were claiming that they were talking to law enforcement, like local law enforcement, not Secret Service. And they were like, look, there's a dude on the roof there with a rifle. What's going on? And I assume that they might have thought, okay, maybe that's Secret Service, because I'm assuming. I don't know what their thought was, but that's my assumption, is that local law enforcement were like, oh man, this is just, this is normal. This is just the Secret Service protecting the guy. And, and that would make sense in a way, for law enforcement, because they would expect, hey, Secret Service has cleared this whole area. There's no way somebody could get that close to the president with a rifle. And yet he did. Anyway, let's see what's going on here. What I do see is even more reason to abolish the Secret Service along with every other member of the alphabet mafia. We shouldn't be forced to fund our domestic enemies. I agree. I have no problem. Like, if you want to run for president, I mean, people already spend millions and millions of dollars, right? Well, that millions of dollars can go toward your protection. Hire a private firm. The United States shouldn't protect, a candidate. Now, when you become president, I actually don't have a problem with having, say, like a Secret Service, like some sort of, or a company or organization that explicitly protects you. I have no issue there. But when you're a candidate, I think that you should fund it yourself. I think after you're the president, when it's all over, I don't know, I might be willing to go with like post presidency, another year, you get Secret Service detail or something like that. But then after that, you've got to fund it yourself. I mean, I would be okay with that. And to be honest with you, if we got rid of it and just said, look, you have to fend for your own self, I'd be okay with that too. But I'm just saying, like, I wouldn't object if we kept some level of security detail that the American people paid for, at least for a president while they're in office, and maybe for like a year after. I wouldn't object to that, but I also wouldn't object to going straight up to um, pay for it yourself. I mean, I got to pay for my own security. There ain't no Secret Service out there, you know, because I'm working on my podcast. There's nobody out there protecting me for running my mouth. So I have to do it myself. So, and I think that should be afforded to pretty much everybody. So ammo boxes in vending machines in the grocery store. Anyway, let's continue on. I think it was just some dude who decided to do something crazy, and his actions are being used to further whatever narratives people want to believe. It's likely just that simple. What is that, Occam's razor? The simplest answer is the most likely correct one. That's what's going on here. It's a crazy dude. He got one over on the Secret Service. They screwed up, and they need to have a conversation internally about how it is that they managed to screw up. Now, if something comes out where maybe somebody was compromised or something like that, well, then that needs to be taken care of. Like, we need to have a full scale investigation. People, heads need to roll in the more bureaucratic sense, and whatever punishments are due for people that are compromised in such a position. What I don't understand is the new outpour of support for Trump. Trump is still Trump. He is. His policy positions, character, and track record are all the same. An assassination attempt changes nothing. He's learned nothing from his past failures because he doesn't care to learn anything. He's not your savior. Hell, he's not even good. There's no reason to take the shooting personally. They didn't shoot you. He didn't, quote, take a bullet for America. He didn't. That's going to be how it's presented. That's how a lot of people will see it, but he did not. The excessive emotion is unnecessary. So Dylan is 100% correct here. Like, he is not a savior. He didn't take a bullet for America because, they weren't shooting at me. They were shooting at Trump for whatever crazy reason. And maybe they didn't like his policies, or maybe they really loved Joe Biden, or whatever. Or maybe they were just really crazy. But he didn't take a bullet for me. Hell, he didn't even remember what he did for January 6th, folks? Nothing. He didn't take a bullet for America any more than he helped out the January 6th protesters that were sitting in jail because they were, trying to defend, his position of, hey, or that position of, hey, the election was stolen from me. And he did virtually pretty much nothing to help. I mean, he talked about it. He was like, yeah, but he didn't do anything. He didn't use any of that power that he has. Former president of the United States, and he couldn't seem to pull a string, couldn't talk about it a whole lot, couldn't bring any extra attention, nothing. He didn't really do anything. So I'm not going to turn around and say, well, yeah, now he took a bullet for America. No, he didn't. But that's how Americans will see it. Many, his supporters at least. Let's go back to this. We're almost done. What I can say is they definitely want you to take it personal, though. It significantly grows his support, sows loyalty, and for what? I'm afraid this event will only push people further away from waking up and seeing Trump for what he is, a slick operator, a master of the con, enmeshed in the very establishment he rails against. No argument. I am, however, glad he wasn't killed. A civil war was likely narrowly subverted by as little as an inch. That much is a relief. Totally agree with Dylan here. Now, I'm not sure how I feel when it comes to the whole Civil War. Would we have actually been in a civil war? I'm not really sure about that. But other than that one particular thing, I completely agree with Dylan. 100%. Trump is still Trump. His bad policies are still bad policies. And for us anti-war activists, remember, he literally was just on television the other day, a month ago, kind of a little more than the other day, talking about, hey, we should, he was talking about Israel and saying, hey, they need to finish the job. Okay. So he's still bad when it comes to anti-war positions. It just depends on which war he's supporting. So he's not anti-war. He didn't follow through on a lot of his campaign promises. He doesn't really help his own constituents when they need it. Not that I could see. Maybe he did something in the background, but as far as I could tell, he did nothing for the January 6th folk. So Trump is still, you be loyal to me, and maybe you get what you want if it happens to align with what I want. That's how I see Trump. He's your stereotypical politician, but maybe worse because he pretends like he's something that he's not. And that doesn't mean that some of the things that were done were right. We can still say some of these things were wrong, right? We can say the 34 counts, the 34 felonies that he received was bogus. We can still make those claims. We can still say a shooter should not be shooting our president. And that if you take a shot at the president, when the Secret Service or anybody shoots you back and kills you, too bad. You shouldn't have done that. We can make all of those arguments and it's okay. So we can also just turn around and say, but at the end of the day, I'm not voting for him. And I'm not voting for Biden either. I mean, the dude's practically a corpse. But I am voting for Chase Oliver, who does support my gun rights and yours 100%. And this doesn't change it. He's not going to come out and say, well, maybe we better limit some of these guns because look, somebody tried to kill the president. He's not going to say that. He's going to say Secret Service should have done their job. All right. So we've talked about the attempted assassination, and we talked about ammo boxes in the grocery stores. And that kind of somewhat segues to something I saw that's unrelated to guns, but talking about grocery stores. I saw something on Twitter. I see a lot of things on Twitter. This is where I get a lot of my ideas. So bear with me, folks. But I saw something on Twitter that just made me very curious. And so I dug in because I wanted to see, like, is this actually true? And it was a picture. Let me pull this up. This is actually a post from Megan McCain, so John McCain's daughter. Um, and it's very interesting. So let's pull this up on the screen here so that you can see it. All right, there we are. And she says, sent from a friend's Facebook showing why they aren't taking a summer vacation this year. This should be the number one issue addressed at both conventions. And I think she's talking about Republican and Democratic conventions. And she's got a picture here of some purchases. So let me put that picture up on the screen so that you can see it way better. So here it is. Boom, there it is. So this is the picture that she posted. And it shows this was a friend that supposedly sent this to her. And it says January 21, 2020 purchase. And it shows like 5 items here. And then it says January 2024 purchase today or whatever, more recently. And there's 2 different prices. So it shows the same 5 items, but then it says plus 25 after that. And one price is $70.29 back in 2020. And then today it says 165, $165.42. And so the the argument being presented here is that these groceries, more than the same exact groceries, more than doubled 4 years later. And this is why we cannot take a vacation because of the high cost of groceries. Now, I'm not going to argue that groceries are not, they're not higher, but I was like, is it really more than double? Like, and my biggest question for this picture was, what are the other 25 items? How do I know that they bought the exact same 25 items from a while back? I don't. Or from the same store, whatever. I don't know this. Or, and when I say exact, I mean not only exact items, but the exact quantities. I don't know. So I decided to look at my own Amazon account and I was like, let me see what I find out. So let me put this up on the screen. So we're gonna, and all I did was I picked up like 8 items. Okay. I just picked out 8 items. I went to 2020 in Amazon and I said, all right, here's some 8 items that are kind of generic. And these are things that I think that other people might actually buy. So I try not to pick anything that, I didn't pick like a bicycle seat that I bought or something like that. Right. I picked things that I thought other normal Americans would buy and then just compared them and said, okay, in 2020, it cost this much, but how much would it cost to buy that again today? The same exact item. So let's take a look and see what we find. And let's see here. Boom, there we are. So here's this first item. So these are just lubricant eye drops. And we see that I paid $13.44 for them back in 2020. And then if we want to take a look and say, all right, what would they cost today? Well, we look and we see $13 and that's a little small on the screen there. Let me get that a little bit bigger, $13.95. So again, really quickly, we went from we went from 1344 to 13.95. So we only went up like 50 cents. Now, strictly speaking, it does show on the screen here that this is an 11% drop. So it's possible that it could cost a little bit more, and Amazon just happens to be, whoever's having a sale on this, and they drop the price a little bit. But that happens all the time, and it's very, and sometimes I wonder if they mark things up and then, give you a discount. So I don't really know. So let's take a look at the next item here. So the next item up on the list here is, where are we here? All right, some inner tubes from a bicycle. I thought people might buy inner tubes, right? Like you have a bicycle, maybe your kids might have a bicycle. I mean, maybe you're not buying a seat, but surely you're buying an inner tube. I just randomly grab stuff. So $26.99. And then if we look over, let's see here. Where are we? Losing my thing here. All right. Boom there. And then we click over one more. All right. So $24. And so, and it's actually $24.46. So actually it's cheaper. The bicycle tubes are cheaper. This turned out to be a lot more difficult. I'm probably only going to show you a few of them just to kind of get the gist of it here. Let's go over here. How about some tea? Does anybody else drink tea? I drink tea. So, and it shows This was I made this purchase in 2020, and it was $7 for this box of tea, 50 tea bags. $7. Okay, even. Interesting. So then if we want to look and we say, all right, well, what was it? What is it today? We cut over here. We see it's actually $5.98. So it's in they're showing that it's dropped 24%. So I was able to get it for cheaper than I did in 2020. Some tea bags. All right. So what's the next item? We're just taking a look at some stuff. We're having a little bit of fun here. Just kind of see what we come up with. All right. So the fourth item here is some batteries. Okay. Some 200 milliamp pre-charged 16 count batteries. This is Energizer. And I paid $38.99 for them. So almost $40. So what would it cost today if I were to purchase these? Well, let's take a look. And we have $41. So it goes up a little bit more, $41 and 50 cents. So a little bit more than what it was prior. So $41 from, again, let's take a look at it here, $38.99. So it's up a couple of dollars. All right. So let's see. What's the next item here? All right. So the next item, some sippy cups. I know, I know people aren't having children, but come on, some sippy cups. Like people buy sippy cups, right? Like you need a sippy cup for your kid. So let's take a look. So we've got $10.97 for two sippy cups, two that you can drop them and they won't spill all over the place. They're really cool. All right. So $10.97 versus, and that was in 2020. So if we want to look at it today, then we're looking at $13.84. So it actually goes up a little bit. Okay. But it's showing that it is 6% cheaper than whatever other, maybe their new standard price. Right. So it went up a little bit. Now, if you remember, the original picture that I was looking at showed it more than doubled. Went from 70 some dollars to like 160 for the same, like what, 30 items in somebody's basket, allegedly. But I'm not seeing that. I'm not seeing this double. Now, again, maybe if I went and I picked out cereal and looked at, cereal and eggs and milk and stuff like that, maybe I would find that. But I'm kind of looking at this and I'm saying, I don't see this from just some random things that I picked out of my own basket. So maybe that's not the case. I don't really know. All right. Body wash. I mean, surely you people take showers, right? So let's take a look at the body wash, $11.37. And if I wanted to buy that same thing again today, pack of 3, we're going to look and it's going to be $14.31. So it goes up just a wee bit. Okay. So it goes up a little bit. So again, we were looking at, where did my little window go there? We went from 11.37 to 14.31. So we went up about $3. Okay. So it's not quite 50%. All right. Let's see. What else do we got here? We can take a look. There's that one. We're almost done. We'll just get through it all. All right. Some vitamins. You guys take one a day, right? Trying to stay healthy. Like that's something you would pick. So we've got $8.24 versus today, which would be, if I can get it. Oops, clicked on the wrong one. Oh, how about we do this? All right. So $10.43. Okay. And remember, I'm just going to bring that back up here. It was $8.24. And then now it's $10.43. So again, still not doubled. Barely went up $2, right? Barely went up $2. Okay, so let's see what else. We got one last item. There's actually another food item here. So we will go ahead and take a look at that. And this is my soy noodles that I like because they're very high in fiber, keep that gut healthy. And so this was $26.99 back in 2020. And then if I were to purchase that same thing again today, then it would be, let's see here. Where are you here? Get that up on the screen. All right, $33.51. So that's, again, it did go up a little bit. So it was $26 and 99 cents, and now it's $33. So this one actually had the most substantial increase. Again, still not double. So we didn't go from $26 to $52. We went from $26.99 to $33.51. So we went up just under $10. So just a little bit under $10. So like, I don't know. I'm looking at this and I'm like, I'm not seeing this double. Why you can't go on vacation? And to be perfectly honest with you, and I'm just going to be a little bit mean, we'll put that back up on the screen here again. So here's that original graphic. It said $70.29 for this purchase in 2020, and it had shows these 5 items, and then the same five items just recently at 165, and then we're supposed to assume that the other 25 items for both years, 2020 and 2024, are the same exact items. I suspect they are not, and that this meme is a bit deceitful. That doesn't mean that groceries didn't go up. That just means, did they double or more than double? It seems like maybe not. But again, it's not clear. And maybe it is, again, it's always possible that yes, this person bought the same exact 30 items in January 2020 and then again today, and that they happen to go up that much. It's very possible, but just from a random selection from my own Amazon basket, not really seeing that. So I don't know. You guys have to tell me what you think. It could, again, it's still substantial, but let's see here. We got a comment here. Let's take a look at the comment because I get in trouble when I don't get onto the comments. Somebody yelled at me the other day and they're like, fine, if you're not going to answer my comment, and why are you doing a live stream? Like, all right, tough crowd out there. So Travis Bost says, looks like 20% on the items that actually went up. So yeah, roughly about 25% on the items that did go up, which is substantial. Don't get me wrong. I'm not arguing like, oh, there's no inflation. Groceries are just fine. Biden's doing great. Like, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just arguing that when we look at memes and stuff like that, we need to make sure that we don't take them for granted, that they could be misleading us. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not. And it really, and I did a random selection. It looks like closer to about 25% on some of the items. Some of the items actually were down. So I could purchase them for cheaper than I purchased them back in 2020. So then the question would be, would my 70 some dollar grocery bill actually go up to $160? Maybe, maybe not. Chances are you're probably buying something different. That's my guess. But I don't really know. Anyway, it was fun to explore it. I just wanted to kind of see and just say like, what do we got here? So I just randomly selected them. It was fun. All right, folks, that's my show for today. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching. Hope you found it informative and inspiring. I want you to be sure to catch me Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. Eastern, for an informed discussion on politics and culture. Make sure that you are subscribed to my YouTube channel, or if you prefer my Rumble channel, you can go to youtube.libertydad.com, or you can go to rumble.libertydad.com. Let me know how I'm doing by leaving me a comment. Last but not least, I want you to remember, if you're a champion of liberty, your business is people and your product is liberty. I want you to have a great week. Catch you next time. Don't be fooled by memes. But for now, I'm out.